Well, good morning and welcome to our in-person and our virtual attendees. Hey, we're on the final day. My name is Jeff Jensen. I'm the Senior Director at Hunt Brothers Pizza, and we are excited to have you here today to learn how to create AI-generated job posts that make people apply with Kat Kibben. Before we begin, I'd like to share a few important reminders. First of all, please take a moment to silence your devices. If you're joining virtually, please note that when you open the session to view the chat and QA, it will autoplay. So again, please silence your phone or your computers. If time allows, the speaker has agreed to take our questions. All attendees may type their question into the chat. In person, whoa. Hello. Okay. Make sure you're awake. All attendees may type their questions into the chat. In-person attendees who want to ask a question, please step up to the mic. We'll have a mic. We're recording this event, so we want that. These questions will live in chat for 30 days so our speaker can respond post-session. And last but not least, we truly value your feedback. So after the session concludes, please take just a moment to share your insight and your suggestions. Now, please join me in welcoming Kat for the session titled, How to Create AI-Generated Job Posts That Make People Apply.
Whatever you want to do. I already warned everyone that I am a safe presenter to sit in the front row with, okay? So if you're standing in the back and you're like, this floor is getting really uncomfortable already, there's a couple of seats right over here that you can take and not make your butt fall asleep for the next hour. All right, so my name is Kat Kibben, and I'm here today to teach you how to write job postings with AI. You know, the research shows that this is one of the top 5 things that people want to automate right now because we've always been taught that writing a job posting is an administrative task. It was a checkbox, and we're all being encouraged to really try to use AI to take over the administrative tasks that have traditionally taken up almost a third, if not 2/3, of your time at work. But what I want you to understand by the end of this presentation is that we can't rush it. That we need to be really thoughtful about how we use AI to generate job postings because they are critical data for all of your AI aspirations and for the career aspirations of the people that you hire. Bonus, you'll actually know how to do that by the end of this session too. And I think we're at a critical juncture where you need to get your data right. Because 61% of people believe that AI will manage the entire recruiting process before 2030. I'm always curious. I want you to raise your hand if you're in that group of people who believe that AI could automate the recruiting process by 2030. It's always a sprinkle. It's okay, be brave, raise your hand, right? Because truly, I believe that it's possible. Meaning, right here, right now, I could go and create, with free tools, an AI-managed recruiting process. Would it be compliant, consistent, or actually get the job done? I don't know, but I could. I could get you from point A to interview. It's even probable that candidates and recruiters would love it. I mean, let's face it, 80% of candidates get ghosted by hiring managers. Hiring managers admit to ghosting them even. Of course, they would love a system where you just generated something useful, some kind of interaction, some signal to tell them that they matter. But it is not likely if we do not address the issues with the quality of the data that we have. And job postings are the largest amount of data that we have in regards to your workforce and what they do, right? At its simplest, that is a critical piece of information to understand the impact of that person on your business. And the reality is right now, we have a lot of bad data. And when you have bad data, you get bad outcomes. And you do not need to be a data scientist or even good at math to understand the consequences of having bad data and getting bad outcomes. And so I want to provide a very practical example that I'm sure all of you will remember after this presentation to explain this bad data, bad outcomes thing if you need to go back to your business and make a business case for why this matters so much. So what you're looking at on the screen is a picture of me when I was 4 and a picture of me when I was 24. That was cute, huh? I know. That grin is the only grin you get, the grin that only a grandma can generate. And so as you can probably tell by a very quick glance, when my hair is even a little bit longer, I have curly, thick hair that grows straight up or straight out. It does not have additional directions. And for most of my life, because my mother, a military officer, was not exactly a hairdresser, I had really, really bad hair. At one point, I wore a ponytail with bangs. And remember, those bangs only grew in 2 directions, so you can imagine what was happening there. And so I got to my 20s. I was in my first big kid job. I was working at Monster.com, and I decided that I wanted a new hairstyle. This also coincided with a time in my life where I was very broke. Very, very broke. So I decided I was going to take matters into my own hands and cut my hair myself. A couple of you have tried this, I see. So I watched a YouTube video of a girl with stick straight, thin hair, pull her hair into a ponytail, and she explained every step meticulously. I mean, this is like an OG YouTube video, and she did amazing. I knew exactly what to do. I even took notes. I got a notebook out. I was sitting there like writing down every single step she took because I was going to have that cute bob at the end of this haircut. The curly-haired folks are laughing more deeply than the rest of you because they know what happened next. I took one snip and I knew something bad. But at that point, I had one bang. I had to keep going. I'm very type A, gonna get to the finish line. I set a goal, I'm achieving it. Whoop! We cut all the ponytail off. I don't have a picture for you of what happened next, but I will tell you it looked a lot like that picture of me when I was 4 years old. That haircut is adorable on a 4-year-old. It does not look good on a grown adult. Bad data, bad outcome. She had stick straight hair, and mine could barely get a comb through it on most days. I ended up having to kind of like grow it out and manage my hair constantly just to create some kind of semblance of put together at work, because otherwise I kind of looked crazy. And I know that's a silly story, and you're probably like, well, what does that have to do with AI? It is the perfect illustration of bad data, bad outcome. I guess in this case, bad data, bad haircut. But the consequences will be so much greater if you plug bad data into an AI system, and it will impact the career of every person that walks through your door. Because at its core, I believe that job posts are the critical data that we will need to build on to attain any of your AI aspirations, no matter what those vendors in the hall try to sell you about predictive this. If you can't define the role, you can't use it for AI. How would you generate an accurate assessment if you don't know what they do? How do you help define compensation and accurately compensate someone if you never define the requirements correctly? What about learning and development? How do I create a learning path for you if I don't know where you're going or where you've been? And performance, good luck. You don't set goals, you can't achieve them. The list goes on, and at its core, I fundamentally believe that the job post is going to be that first piece of data architecture that will allow you and create ease for every other AI aspiration that you have. That is why I'm here today, to teach you everything that I know about writing great job postings with AI. But there's another reason why I'm here, and it's because I believe in the good. I say this with my full chest, that I believe that every single person in here has an incredible opportunity to create hope for other people. Because you know what it feels like. You type in that job title, you hit enter, and you're met with bullshit and lies. That's what you're going to get today. If you thought that was a bad word, I'm real sorry. Truly, I find that it is a hopeless feeling every time you click another job posting and it does not make sense. When you can't make sense of the now or the future, it's not right. Raise your hand if you know someone who's looking for a job. Maybe it's you. Look around. If every single one of us did one thing, if every one of you took one thing from this presentation and made it a rule, made yourself determined to do better for that person you love and for every other person in this room who is loved by someone, I think we can change the world little by little and infuse hope in a situation that is not meant to give people greater aspirations for their life. It's not just an administrative task for some people. It's the key that allows them to imagine a new world. So let's not set the bar at just generating something generic. Let's set something at generating a job posting that helps people reach their dreams. You can. So, if you don't know me, my name is Kat Kibben, and I am a recruiting expert that specializes in the candidate experience. I like to say that I make hiring more human because we add tone, creativity, and technique and strategy that actually makes you stand out in a world that's really noisy. I get to do that every day by standing on stages like this and engaging with groups to share what I know, sitting with your team and literally teaching them how to do what I do, because I do not believe in gatekeeping information or pretending that I'm going to be the only expert in the whole world and you have to hire me to do the great work. And finally, of course, there's always that done for you piece, because some people just want you to do it for them. So of course, we're happy to do that. What you'll notice on this screen that's a little bit different than most of the presenters you'll see over the recent days and the rest of today is my personal email address. Yes, that is my inbox. The reason I share it is because we're going to have some conversations about bias. We're going to get into technique. We're going to talk about customizing templates. And what I find is sometimes you don't want to ask that question in front of 150 of your closest stranger peers, right? So if you want to ask a question, you should always feel welcome to shoot me an email, check out the website, try to get these details, all right? And don't worry, if you were taking the picture, it's on this one too. Here's our agenda for today and what I want to get through in the next hour. 2 questions to answer before I even read this is, yes, you'll get a copy of the slides, and yes, I will take questions at the end. All right, here's what we're going to learn. We're going to learn why AI can't just spit out a good job posting. I want to talk about data infrastructure and architecture because I've had some really unique experiences that inform my perspective, and I think they'll help inform yours as well. I'm going to talk about why you need an AI job template, because honestly, I think it solves a lot of your problems without even having to do anything else. Quality questions to ask your managers, because we are now going to treat hiring intake calls like data. And finally, we are going to walk through how to write a job posting beginning to end. And it's not just one tool, one output. You'll see it every step of the way. All right. So I want you to raise your hand if you have ever read a bad job posting. If your hand's not up, I know you're not paying attention. My favorite is the people on the live stream. They'll tell me, oh, I just raised my hand. Like, I'm not even in the room. Because they are that bad. And that's exactly why we cannot generate better job postings right now with AI. It's because their data set is every job post that you're reading right now. And we all just mutually agreed that all of those are awful. Bad data, bad outcome. And the reality here is, so for a lot of years, I researched job postings and really tried to understand the historical bias in the techniques so we could create something better, because you got to know where you came from to build your future. And the reason these job posts are so bad is because they have never evolved. You'll see language in examples from the 1920s, the exact same language is used today. The majority of this room could not have gotten a job in 1920. Straight up. Honestly, the only major shift you will ever see in job postings is when they went from print to digital in the 90s. And the only thing that happened when we went from print to digital is that they got really, really long. They did not get more informative. We did not provide more information. We did not inspire or delight. No, we took up more of people's time making up requirements. Seriously, if you ask, why did you put this requirement there? 9 times out of 10, someone will say, it was in the original post. And now we have copied and pasted our way to a data catastrophe. Because here's how AI works. And I wanted to explain this because I had the opportunity to sit on an ethics board for AI. And I got to tell you, they blew my mind. Like, I thought I knew all the things. No. This bias is wide and deep because our data comes from a biased environment, meaning the world. And how AI works is you make a request, and then it goes out and crawls all the data it has. The data it has is awful. So what's it going to bring back for you? Awful but sounds nice. Awful but uses more buzzwords. Awful but just awful. Because the reality is that it can't help you get where you want to go if the data is not accurate, if the data is not precise. Because we all know that context is king when we're writing job postings. It's what makes your job unique. A generic job post is never good off the shelf. You always have to edit. And removing bias is a lot harder than not starting with it. And here's what it's going to 100% be able to do, is shine a magnifying glass on the bias that already exists within your business. Amazon saw this years ago before any of you were logging into ChatGPT when they built their own AI recruiting system. So they ran it through, and it was making decisions for them, meaning that system decided who would get an interview. They uploaded all the successful resumes from every person that they had ever hired. And what happened next? Their AI system rejected every single female applicant. Every single one. That's the consequence. Anyone here willing to swap your name with Amazon? You want to be part of the headlines talking about how you multiplied bias inside of your organization and just shined a light on your problems? No. And the reality is, no technology company is going to take responsibility for your mistake. Those lawyers are getting smarter. And the reality is that they will not be to blame if you use bad data in their system and you get a bad outcome. It's not all doom and gloom. I know you've listened to lots of inspirational AI future, yada, yada, yada trends this week. Good things happen when we get it right, when we actually follow a system and create a system that's built on understanding the truth and generating job postings from context. I've seen this happen in every kind of environment you can imagine. At a rural warehouse in Kentucky, okay, in a town in Kentucky most of us have never even heard of, by just optimizing the job title on their posting, they saw over 30% increase in qualified applications. Smarter, not harder, y'all. Another team who was hiring AI talent against everyone else and all of the big names, saw a 27% decrease in time to fill because they sounded different. The coolest part about that project was over 50% of the people that they were recruited mentioned the job post explicitly as their driver. Quote, "It just felt different." The last one, it's also creating impact in the long game. It's not just about who you get in the door, it's getting people in the door that will stay. And what made this one even better is that this job sucked. It was a bad job. I mean, I would never take this job. Your shift started at 10 o'clock at night and went until 10 o'clock in the morning. You smelled when you left. You had to wear a hazmat suit, head to toe. Their average quit rate at 90 days was 72%. You know what they did? They changed the job post to tell the truth instead of copying and pasting what everyone else in the community was using. That's all they did. Tell the truth. This is not an inspiration, creativity contest. It's about playing smarter, okay? Get your pens out. We're literally gonna go step by step through how to write a job post with AI. I wanna be really clear about this, is that I use AI every step of the way. You are not gonna hear me be like, upload it here, spit it out here, ta-da, because that's not how it works. I want you to set the goal to say that this should take you about 30 minutes to create the job posting itself, okay? 30 minutes, and it is worth every minute. With the AI, we trim off a lot of the excess time so you can use your brain for what you're good at, which is understanding the qualifications and what matters to that person, all right? And the step that we often skip when we say AI is teaching people what good means. The very first thing that I want you to invest in, if you're thinking about AI job postings and improving the quality, are two kinds of training. The first is hiring manager intake training. We got a lot of people who do not want to be treated like order takers, who are asking for lists. If you want to be treated like a consultant, you need to ask better questions. That training is going to teach you what to do before, during, and after an intake to make that conversation highly valuable, both for your relationship with the hiring manager in the business, but also for your ability to actually fill this role. The second training you're going to do is how to write a job post. You can't generate something that's good if you don't know what good means. Your job post training should cover a few things, 3 that I find extra important. The first is how to do an SEO optimized job title to make sure your job is found. Because it doesn't matter how good your job posting is if no one ever reads it. The second thing we're going to learn about are biases and how to correct them. Not just in the typing, but also conversationally. Because the reality is, if you throw a job post back at a manager that looks nothing like what they think, there's going to need to be some conversations here. And the third thing is going to be how to optimize the length and tone. I know most recruiters will tell me, well, I'm not a writer. You know what to say, so you know what to write. It just takes a little bit of training to get our brains and our engines going on what good means, all right? Bonus, it also helps with consistency, meaning every person on your team is consistently executing these processes. Now, the next thing we learned during training is how to execute the template. So step one of writing a job post with AI is to make sure you have a template. Who here has a job post template that you work off of right now? Just out of curiosity. All right, about half, maybe a little bit more. I really think for those of you who did not just raise your hand, that job post template can help you get 50% of the way there towards a better job posting. Because often when people come to me and tell me their job postings are bad, they say it's because it's not consistent and it's not compliant. If you create a really good job template, it kind of creates a lock around consistency and compliance because you can kind of coach them as you go. But for those of you who do have a job post template right now, an AI job post template is just marginally different than the job post template you have right now, and here's how. The first thing it does is it provides prompts and examples and fewer of those kind of like Mad Lib templates. You are a blank at the blank, and you go to the blank and at this time, and the salary is blank, right? That's not what I'm talking about with a template. The point of the prompts and examples is to tell you what this section should tell them. Tell them their schedule. Tell them their salary. Tell them this, right? And be really explicit about it in a way that anyone can understand. The next piece is real-time audits. So that's that little flag that goes, did you do this? Did you read this? How many bullets do you have? It's those little checks that, again, because you're trained on what makes a good job post, you can build in these prompts to reinforce good. Did you follow this rule? Does it sound like this, right? The next one is it has editable and locked sections. Meaning, if you ever get, I saw a couple people smile, and I know this one, it's when people edit stuff they're not supposed to edit. And you're like, don't touch my stuff. Can you tell I'm an oldest child? Right? Editable and locked, meaning about 50% you write and 50% does not get changed ever. Your About Us is not that special. Talk about it some other time. Created by experts. I think there is a benefit to having a consultant create a template for you because what they can do is kind of make sure it's universal. A lot of times we fall into this world where we talk about recruiting like everyone understands recruiting, and they don't. They're like, they'll get it. And any of you who have been in this area for long enough, you're laughing because, no, they won't. People don't understand hiring the way you do. You have invested your life in this career, okay? Sometimes it helps to have an outsider look at it just to make sure, like, is this what you mean? Is this how you do it? Bonus if they've written hundreds of job post templates like my team has. They are also unique to your company. Your template should not sound like everybody else's stuff. All right? That's an easy way to stand out, is to do something different, okay? Here's an example of a template that we created for a university who is interested in hiring people who had never worked in academics before. I loved this challenge because if you work in the university system, oh, God, no one is reading 2,000 words. Come on, all right? So we completely flipped it up. While we included some of the same information, we changed some of the headers to say things like what we're looking for instead of mandatory requirements. And we were able to make it sound like a conversation with these people instead of leaning into academics and sounding like everyone else. Next, you're going to do a hiring manager intake. Okay? So for those of you who already had a template, you may now skip to this step. You're going to do hiring manager intake. I'm not going to ask if you're doing hiring manager intake because I know there's always well, not every time, and only if I've never done the role before, so no. You do a hiring manager intake every time unless it is a high volume role in which you are going to do 30-day check-ins, okay? Here's why. Conversations are data in an AI world. Let me say that one more time because we're not talking about this enough. Your conversations are data in an AI world. And this conversation is the most critical data to actually define what you're looking for because hiring managers are your source of truth. If you don't agree on the requirements, who's the final decision maker? Them. They are the source of truth. You must have this conversation. Here's how you're going to use AI to repurpose this data. You're going to record the call with an AI note taker. My personal favorite is one called Fathom. Fathom. It is not HR related. Sorry, vendors who do recording. I like Fathom because it automatically generates a transcript, and you can query the transcript right there. Right? And it's private. We are recording this call, and if you don't want the whole world to have access to that proprietary conversation that you just had with the hiring manager, you need to use something private, like something attached to your Zoom instance. You pay for a license. You get where I'm going with this? Be thoughtful about that. So if you don't use Fathom, you can upload to your favorite LLM large language model, ChatGPT, Claude. And then you're going to start prompting to get more information and start to suck out the marrow of that conversation. What requirements did you hear? Is the job title correct? How could we do this? This is great also if you have a handoff between the hiring manager intake and the beginning of sourcing, because it allows your sourcers and recruiters to start to query that conversation as well and ask more questions where before they had to book another call. However, remember what I said about being treated like an order taker? It's because you're not asking good questions. So it is highly important that you modify the questions you're asking. I'm going to give you 3 of my favorite types of questions because what these do is really open up the field to allow them to give you a lot of information. The first type of question I love, honestly, if you're going to take a picture of any slide, this is the one. So when I started my business, I offered to write job postings for free. That was not a good idea. I don't do that anymore. I wrote 1,000 in 60 days. I got really, really good at hiring manager intake. And these questions open doors to things you just never even would think to ask. The very first question is about setting the scene. This is 100% of the time the first question I ask during hiring manager intake. Tell me about a day in their life. They clock in, now what? Notice I did not say what did they do. I did not say what requirements are they looking for. I allow them to describe a day in the life because now I can work backwards from that data to itemize the requirements and have validation of task, meaning a requirement should align to something you do. A requirement that does not align to something you do is just a bias. That one's settled. I could hear that. A lot of like a church. Amen. It creates contrast. So if you have a manager who is insisting on one specific requirement, I have to have 15 years of experience. I have to have a master's degree. And you know, ask a question that creates contrast. I have to have 15 years. Okay, well, what does someone with 15 years know that someone with 12 doesn't? What does someone with a master's degree know that someone without it does not know? Could they learn this anywhere else? Instead of going, that's biased. No. Tempting, but not okay. Summarize. At the very end of every hiring manager intake, I summarize what I heard. All right, here's the requirements I heard. You want somebody who has this, who worked here, who did this, who's had this scale. What did I miss? I do it at the end because it's also a cue to the AI. It's a cue to the AI to say, this is important information, this is summary information. Please come and look at this. Next, you're going to write the first draft. This is also where people are like, okay, now ChatGPT is going to do my work for me. I'm sorry. No. What I want you to do at this step is to literally get your phone out, and you're going to voice to text a summary of what you just heard. This is kind of your third data point. The original posting, the hiring manager intake transcript, and what you're about to voice to text. I will not keep going, though, and I will not tell you what to voice to text if you do not repeat after me. Repeat after me. I will not let AI write the first draft of my job post. Say it. We just made an agreement, okay? So if you send me something that you let AI write, I'll know. Here's what I want you to put in that voice to text. It's really, really easy, okay? And I'm telling you, this is where we start shaving time off. You are going to hold that phone up to your face and you're going to go, the salary is between this and this. Because just putting salary on a job post will increase conversion by 50%. Also, no one takes jobs without knowing how much money they're going to make. If you've ever seen me speak, you've heard me say that one because I stand on that podium tall. You must know how much money they're going to make, whether it's required by law or not. The next one is location. Tell them where they have to go. If it's not actually remote, don't you dare write remote. Even one day in office is not remote. Impact. This is not a creativity contest. Why did we hire you? What is the business objective or goal aligned with your role? What do you do for us? The daily tasks. Literally, what do you do every day? Again, no creativity contest. And finally, the mandatory requirements as you understood them. I think it's important to do this right after that call because it's freshest. I'm saying, like, even if you're doing it while you're walking to the bathroom between that meeting and the next one, just get that data point as quickly as possible because what we see is the memory fades. With every half hour you wait, the accuracy of your job posting changes. Okay? You're also going to be uploading this when you start writing. So make sure that you put it in a digital format. That's why I recommend using your phone and just spitting it into an email. Subject line, the job title. What you get is something that looks like this and is already better than what AI could generate. I mean, are you passionate about connecting top talent with exciting career opportunities? Bingo. That's buzzword bingo, by the way. We're seeking a dynamic and right? We've all read that post 100 times. On here in the right. As our talent acquisition specialist in Rockford, Illinois, making this much money, you'll help us hire people. Every day, you'll meet with hiring managers. Do this, do that. To thrive in this role, you must. I'm applying to this job. Who's applying to the job on the right? Raise your hand. Right? It actually makes sense. You're all trying to take pictures with your hand up. Now we're getting into the fun part because we're just generating results. We're going to answer questions at the end. So I want to start with my favorite tools. We'll go through a few techniques for how to use those tools in real time. Then we'll get to the Q&A to make sure we address anything that's coming up for you about privacy, creating great content, or job postings. All right? This auditing and editing phase is really where we're able to create something that is more of just a task and is now really useful data to prepare us for all of those other AI steps, but most importantly, to get the right person to apply. Because that last slide, that's about psychological motivators. I didn't pick those because I like them. We know that that drives candidates to click apply, especially qualified candidates. So now that we know those psychological motivators, let's optimize for the output that we want, which is let's get them to apply and be confident of the job. Because the other scary statistic here is that 27% of people quit within the first 90 days because the job does not align with their expectations. Remember, we're trying to fix the whole process, not just spit out a job post. My 3 favorite AI tools are all completely free. I know, right? You love when they're like, it's a $50 per month per user. Da, da, da. I love my free friends. All right, number 1 is Notebook LM, which is a Google product. So if you can't use Google, I'm sorry. You can use Fathom or one of those other tools, but Notebook LM. What I like about Notebook LM is it creates notebooks. So basically, you could load up all the stuff for that particular job, all the materials you have, anything the manager gave you, and then do queries just from that data. The nice part about that is it's not segmented to one call, right? With Fathom, everything is separated by one call, versus this, if I had a call with you and a call with you, and then I pulled all of that information together, I could put it all together visually for my team, and anyone could access the notebook. Query, start to request information. The next one is Kat, just like me, K-A-T, Mat, like the floor, M-A-T, field, like the ones outside. Kat Mat Fields, free gender decoder. Full transparency, this is the easy AI. So I guess that most of you have an ATS with some kind of gender decoder in it right now who's like, those are boy words and these are girl words. Now, as a non-binary person, I really don't buy into this whole like boy words and girl words or boy clothes and girl clothes because they're just clothes. They don't have genitalia. But I will tell you, I've gotten results. Straight up. We did an example with a solar company who had 10 sales roles. They had 9 men sitting in those roles. And I was coaching the HR manager, and she said, look, I really do not want to fill this last role with another guy. Like, we have to create some kind of better floor here and create more diversity and diverse thoughts and backgrounds in this group. So we took her job posting that we had already written, and we coded it female. Got it to say it was leaning female. I'm not kidding you. They got 30% more female applicants in the first day. This is the same person who started our call saying, there are no women who work in solar sales. Instant change just by changing the tone. That's why I mention it. It does generate results. But most of the time, I want you to be aiming for neutral. Finally, my job title generator. I built this one on Amazon's platform. It's called Party Rock. And every single time I try to give a link, it breaks. And then I have a lot of angry people in the room. So let me show you how to use that job title generator. You're going to Google job title generator 3earsmedia, or you can just go to my website and go grab it. All right? What it's going to do is it's going to show you a split screen. At the top, it's going to say, enter the requirements of the job. So you are going to take those requirements as you understood them, as you queried out of Notebook LM. You're going to paste those requirements right in there. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate alternative job titles. Here's where generating alternative job titles is highly useful. Number 1, you are not getting enough applicants, or none. In this market, if you are getting none, something is really wrong about your job title. Number 2, if it is what we call an internal job title, meaning it would never make sense to anybody else why we call you a marketing level 4A, project B engineer. We all have them, okay? Or you're getting a lot of applicants, but none of them are qualified. In all of these instances, start just with the job title. Change nothing else. Because remember, if your job title cannot be found, it does not matter how good it reads or how accurate it is or how helpful you tried to be. The next step you're going to take is you're going to open up Google Trends, trends.google.com. What I like about this is that it gives an indicator of what is most popular in the market right now. So what you're able to do is take the 4 job titles that my job title generator spits out for you, and you're going to be able to compare them based on volume. Which one gets searched the most? Google Trends is going to show you 3 things that can be very, very helpful, especially for those of you who focus on hyperlocal, regional roles, or you're specifically looking in one area because you go into an office every day. Number 1, it will give you that score, which one wins. I really want to emphasize this is not total traffic. A lot of people get wonked. They look at it and they're like, it says 1. What do you mean 1 looked at it? And I'm like, no. It's like 1 out of 100. It's a very low score, 1. Okay? The second thing it's going to tell you is the regional nuance. People on the West Coast and people on the East Coast search for tech jobs completely differently. I would never have known that had I not used Google Trends. And finally, it's going to tell you if the traffic is related to job search. And here's how. It's going to say related keywords, and it's going to give you a list of alternatives. If those alternatives are not related to job search, you may be looking at something that's inflated for no reason. Let me give an example. Here's what I want to see. Resume, salary, jobs. Do you see how those are related to job search? Here's what I don't want to see, and this happened to me just a few weeks ago when I was doing a customer service role. They were getting applicants, none were qualified. We started comparing customer service. They were using a really generic title, like customer service agent. We get down to the related keywords, and wouldn't you know, Southwest, United, Delta. If you didn't catch on, when people search customer service agent, it's because they're pissed. And they want to complain to someone, usually who's managing an airplane, especially over the last few months. When I see something like that, I am not using that job title. Even if it makes sense, even if it kind of works. Final check, not on the slide, but you should write this down. You should Google your job title and see if jobs like yours come up. That's another really quick way to see if you're using it correctly and if that job title is accurate. Next, let's talk about using AI for the actual generation and optimization. All right, so now I have all of this info and my template uploaded to my Notebook LM project, and I say, okay, reformat everything I gave you into my template. If you have a really good AI job post template, it will spit out something that is 100% better than anything ChatGPT could give you. Because again, it is built on the context you gave it. It actually knows the truth. It's not just trying to say, a marketer does this, and it's pulling information from Wikipedia that was generated in 2003. Okay? Make this shorter. Who struggles to say a little too much sometimes, and you're always like, I just always write way too much. Yeah, me too. Make this shorter. Make it concise. Make it something an engineer wants to read. Make it digestible for a new grad. Remember, you can add to this too. But again, make this shorter is a really easy way to start to get more concise. The target you want to aim for, and this always makes people scared, 250 words on the parts that you control. That does not count your about us. It does not count the lawyers. Anything that's locked does not count 250 words because the average person's attention span, if you've ever seen me speak, you know this is when I show the toilet. It's about the time they would sit on the toilet for a number 1. Very short. Tick-tock. Okay? Shorter is better. 250 words is the ideal length that they will read beginning to end. Next, remove the buzzwords. I always provide a couple examples because my first draft usually has a highly collaborative team player to join my... No. Highly collaborative team player, I checked this morning, that phrase is used 18,000 times in jobs that are posted right now on Indeed. It will show up in your AI, no matter what you use, no matter how refined the algorithm is or anything those vendors tell you, okay? You gotta look for the buzzwords. And the issue with those buzzwords is not, I'm anti-collaboration. No, it's that those words do not have universal meaning. Collaborative at your company and collaborative at my company look completely different. My team is 100% async. We collaborate all the time, but never in real time, right? Collaboration at an office is completely different. That's why if you use the buzzwords, you must provide context or don't use the buzzwords. Just tell the truth. Next one, reformat this into 7 or fewer bullets. This goes back to that whole people aren't reading the whole job posting. 7 is the tipping point where research shows that we start to see people from more diverse backgrounds fall off. And it's because of a whole history of being told that you had to be 10 times better than everyone else just to get what everyone else had. So psychologically, if we want a diverse slate of backgrounds, if we want people from every background to apply to our job, I want you to target about 7 bullets, 10 for executives. And yes, it's possible. And finally, remember how I told you the technology will never tell you it's being biased? I lied. The vendor will never tell you they're being biased. The technology will. You need to ask at the very end, what bias does this post have? Let it coach you. Let it be part of your ability to create equity for others. Because it has all of that data, but it also has all of the bad data. And that's why we see so many of these favorite biases showing up. Years of experience quantify time. They do not qualify people. And most of those numbers are completely made up. If you can't tell me why it's 5 instead of 4, it's made up. All right? If you are required to use years of experience, use the minimum and explain what they did during that time that would qualify them for the job. They have unnecessary college degrees. College is a privilege, not a right, in the United States of America. And if you only want privileged people to work for you, you can continue to put college degrees on every single job. That is research background, and I'm happy to provide any more of that research to show those roots behind those requirements. Next, entry-level bullet point overload. If it's an entry-level job, you don't need bullets. Entry-level means no requirements. So what you're going to say is, there are no requirements for your background. We'll teach you everything you need to know. That is a powerful, easy phrase. It invites people in. The next one is preferred requirements. This one's easy. Just delete it. Preferences are for restaurants. You want cheese on your salad, extra pepper? Girl, get it. It does not go on a job posting because, again, people who don't work in recruiting don't understand what you mean by preferred. They think that's what you really want. I shouldn't even apply. Everyone goes, for those of you on the live stream. And finally, gender bias. We talked a little bit about that, right? You do need to just check for gender bias at the end. So now you're proofreading. You're going through, when you see that college degree requirement, you change it to something like, you completed courses where you learned this. Because you don't actually need the degree, you need to know how to do this. It's not 5 years of HR experience, you have work experience where you did this. What you did, not how long. You and the person next to you could have the exact same job title for 2 years, and you would never assume you did the same thing. Why do we do that on job postings? And the final step, if you've ever seen me speak, this is our giggle of the day. Proofreading matters because we are all one F away from being the shit leader. It hits deep. And that's how you get the results you want. Consistent, compliant job postings that increase your qualified candidate flow and get employees that stay. That is my time, but I hope we can be real friends. I am the only Katrina Kibben in the world. If you spell my name right, you'll find me. If you spell my name wrong, you'll find a priest for the U.S. House of Representatives, and you will know you are in the wrong place because I am too gay for that job. If you would like to connect professionally on LinkedIn, I'd love that. I share what I'm learning every single day. I also have some more quick videos and tips on YouTube. And finally, I would love to open it up for questions while mentioning that for accessibility purposes, I have a PDF version of the conversation we just had. I learn best by reading, and if I can listen and read, that's the easiest way for me to put it into practice. So I made you a free resource that'll help you put it into practice or share with anyone on your team who couldn't make it today. If you have any issues accessing that file, just go to threeearsmedia.com and you'll see it. All right? I would love to answer your questions. Thank you so much for having me.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. So I'm an energy and utility company. We have a lot of internal titles with a lot of different levels that don't mean anything to external people. When I'm making job postings, do you recommend, or is there a way to navigate around hiring like an engineer versus an engineer operator, O4, E4, level 2, whatever?
Yeah.
Do you just advertise a different title and say, well, you're really going to be called this, though? What do you recommend?
I love that question because a lot of people feel like that's a bait and switch, right? If I advertise this and then I tell you it's really this, what happens? Okay, but the reality here is if you never apply, it doesn't matter. We can't have the conversation. So I use marketing job titles. That's your SEO optimized job title. A lot of ATS systems are built for a marketing job title, by the way. It's already built in, especially I know Workday has it and a couple other the big ones. Now, here's the process change that has to happen. After the first interview, when you know that you want to recruit this person, you know you want to interview them, you're going to send them an email with the original job description, the HR version. And you're going to say, internally, we call it a this. I want you to take a look at this job description and let me know if you have any questions about this document or the title. If they ask me about the title, I say, we use a marketing job title because we want great people like you to apply. You would never have found it if I called it a lead engineer AB46. And most people totally get that. And if they have other questions or want to negotiate from that point, you now have a job description in front of you, and you can talk about the infrastructure in your business that guides leveling and all of that.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great session, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you please clarify for me what the difference is between the summary in 2 and the 3 I'm talking to going on the bathroom? What is the difference between those two things?
Okay, so what it does is it puts more tone, but allows for a correction. So here's what I mean by this is, all right, so I said, I heard you want this, 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 and this. Then the manager goes, actually, I want this, and I want it phrased this way. And you're having a collaborative conversation about that. When you go out and do it next, you won't say it the exact same way you said it this time. You'll probably use slightly different words, or you'll add something, or something you forgot during the conversation, something, right? And again, it's just like that other data point to allow the AI to go, I saw this 3 times, this is important.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi there, great session. Just curious, how do you change manage? We have a lot of managers who are like, I need this job posted today with this job description, go.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we don't have time to do all of this. How do you change manage in your organization?
So I've done a lot of this in like, number one, SLAs, just setting that service level agreement. And I do that during hiring manager onboarding, where I say, okay, you got approved for this job today. It will be a minimum of 72 hours, 3 business days until it goes live, and you must do this. So we'd be very, very explicit about the process, and just that's how it is now. And number 2, I think the second piece is becoming that consultant. Explaining that if I don't have accurate data, if I'm using something that's old, I mean, every headline, every article, everything is talking about how AI is changing everything. But you want to post a job post that you wrote 8 years ago?
Fair.
That math doesn't math, right? You can't find what you don't know you're looking for. And I really do feel you just need to be consistent about that, and that's what takes us to that consultant. And don't let your hiring managers write their own job postings. We'll talk about that some other time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for speaking today. This is wonderful. My name is Erin. I work for IKEA, and a lot of retailers particularly have problems recruiting and retaining part-time workers that work maybe 12 to 20 hours a week. So I was wondering, other than the entry level, like don't put requirements on it, what other suggestions might you have to optimize finding those candidates?
I love that. So my background, I worked at an employer brand agency. That Ron said source right. I did employer brand inside of that recruiting world, right? And so a lot of high volume hiring, a lot of that consistency. And one of the big things we did is we would go back and we would ask people who are in the role beyond tenure, beyond our average tenure. So let's say our average tenure is 1 year. Anybody who made it past 1 year, did an interview where we asked, why do you stay? We take that information, upload it all into Notebook LM, you add overtime, and maybe you create a section that says, here's why people stay. And just bullet it out, find the trends, and spell it out in a really human way. No, you don't need to like add names to everything and put their cute little picture next to it so that you can argue with some manager about what if they quit? Skip it. Just write it out.
Thank you.
Little videos could also do that.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So I work for a global company, and the entity that I work for is a federal subcontractor. We recently went through an audit, and we talked a lot about job postings.
Of course.
That was very interesting. Don't ever want to do that again.
I understand.
Yep. So basically what they ended up telling us, the outside counsel that we were working with and also our internal legal team told us to put very minimal required qualifications and then do a longer preferred list. You said no preferred qualifications. Just kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
So I usually tell people, like, my number one rule is I don't argue with lawyers. Of all the people to argue with, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're like the least pleasant. And so I think my advice would be do what lawyers tell you to do, and then advocate for a job post and a job description, because there's a difference between the two.
Yep.
Okay? Think of it as a flow: description, post, ad. So tell them, we will follow your guidance on the job description. You got it. I'm creating marketing versions. And in that marketing version, you're going to give them that human language that connects back to the job description, and then follow the process that I outlined for her. You give it to them after the first interview, and because you're a federal contractor and lawyers are all up in your business, have them sign it.
Okay.
Create like a very technical step where they have to acknowledge that they have reviewed it.
And do you recommend keeping both copies, the job description and the job posting, separate locations, keeping both for all roles?
Yes.
We don't do that. Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm also in energy and utilities, so lots of questions from that sector. We have 42 locations across the U.S. and Canada. We hire a lot of the same type, very niche positions in what
Yeah.
we do, and sometimes it can get repetitive. Now I'm using job descriptions that are really old, and this is on my plan for this year. So I'm wondering, in terms of intake calls, I use a templated system in my ATS. I have iSIMs, and so I can template them.
Yeah.
So I could update these one time, really. Do you suggest the recruiters continue to have an intake call specific and kind of, because you know every branch is going to have a different personality fit. So how do you kind of navigate what that looks like in trying to maintain what these look like with the hiring managers and having it be across the board, but also it's the same requirements standard?
Totally. So I would do an audit of your volume, and I would target the roles that you fill the most first, and then work down to the roles that you would never touch. You know, like we replace this person every 13 years because they're super senior. Start with your high volume, and then I would go through and do that. Always start with your junior roles as well, because it's easy to build on top of a very basic posting. It is really hard to go from something extremely senior and pull out what you need at each level. The other thing I would tell you is, if you do not have a document that describes exactly what distinguishes each level and title, so meaning the difference between a manager and a director, the difference between a director and okay, a few of you have seen this, I'm getting the nod, right? If you don't have that done, that's step one.
We did a leveling guide in 24, so
Perfect.
I've got some of that. We just have not translated that into job descriptions, which is kind of why it's on the plan this year. So it's just a heavy lift. There's like 400 job titles, so
Yeah.
it's a lot. So
Yeah, so again, start at those high volume and slowly work your way there.
thank you so much.
Of course.
Hi. Thank you for a wonderful session.
Thank
So
you.
This was really interesting. There's a team. We are a team of. I work in the construction industry, so I recruit for construction. But we have, of course, very different positions and very different areas.
Yeah.
There's 8 of us in the recruiting team, and we support different positions or different departments, each one of us. How
Yeah.
do we make it consistent? Because we have to stay consistent throughout all the job postings that we do. So far we've been using a lot of the job description with a header that we
I love how
write.
everyone whispers when they're like, I did the thing you said.
When we
I
do
wasn't
the
supposed
things
to
that we're
do."
not supposed to do. So we've been using that
Yeah.
as our base for the job postings, but I believe in what you're saying, that we have to make it more attractive.
Yeah.
How do we keep the team consistent?
Start with a template, right? Get a really good template, train everyone on how to execute the template, and literally just set the line in the sand. As of today, as of training, every job post that you touch must follow this standard.
Okay.
I think a lot of people try to be like, we're gonna do a 12-week overhaul, blah, 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 and that's a really easy way to be. People hate their job postings. And the ones done in weeks 10 through 12 are not as good as the weeks 1 through 3. So genuinely do a training that's built on having every single person create a job post beginning to end. That's how I train, right? So you don't go to train just to learn, you go to train to do. Practice, 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 you now have 8. As of the end of that, every meeting you have, hey, we're starting a new process. We're doing an intake, we're doing this, we're doing this. And you just have to establish that template and create those rules up front.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Curious if you have any advice for growing organizations where many times we hire the first role of a function or first role of even the hiring manager as a new manager. So how to work with them through the intake call? And many times the answer may be, I don't think you're ready to hire right now, or yeah, just general suggestions on how to deal with that.
This is the kind of stuff that you cover in that hiring manager intake training. My favorite question for when someone says, I've never hired this person before, I say, okay, what's going to be happening in 6 months that is not happening right now if I hire someone great? And we can work backwards from there. Where do you learn how to do that? In what environment? Would it help if we had someone from the same industry, or is this knowledge broad? Right? And you can start to navigate. That's a great summary, that first question of setting the scene. That's a set the scene question that we can start to pick apart from there. But a lot of times too, right, there is some business objective around why we're hiring. Yeah. We're hiring this person because we want to launch this project by here. Yeah. Okay, that's the 6-month mark. Let's work backwards. What do you have to know to do this?
Yeah, so true. And many times we want the candidate to be happy with what we showed on the job description, yes, or just to stay true to what it is, the role may be. And I feel like many times I've dealt with hiring managers changing that 6 months after or even 9 months after, and then we end up losing a candidate or a great talent. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
Well, the highly technical companies I work with, that's actually part of their template. Here's what you'll accomplish in 6 months. Here's what you'll accomplish, because that helps feed their performance review cycle and creates better expectations, and they've reduced turnover in double digits.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
I work for a small family-run company who has a specific type of culture.
That's code.
To put it nicely. But in the about, in the about us section, I know you kind of said leave that alone, but I feel like that needs to be kind of modernized and revamped a little bit, but also still stay true to who we are as a company, because we don't want to, come across as something that we're not.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice or things that you've seen that people actually want to see about the About Us section of the job posting?
So I have a whole article about this on my blog. So if you just search About Us, it'll spit it out.
Okay.
What I remember, because I wrote this like a couple years ago, is we want to convey stability. So how big you are, how long you've been in business, that's really important information in a world where most of us are worried about getting laid off tomorrow, right? The next thing that you want to talk about is kind of culture and values, something that at the highest level, we're a family-owned blankety-blank who does the blankety-blank, right? Like what you do.
Right.
Give that context. And then the final piece is to learn more, go do this. Don't overthink it. I would also tell you AI would probably be very, very good at writing you 5 versions of an About Us and giving you options to put in front of a focus group and let them pick.
Okay, awesome.
Whenever I do templates, 100% of the time we do focus groups. Because when we show it to a couple of people in contrast with other people's stuff, they'll love it. And then you have internal advocates who love your job postings. And those are things that we all just never thought we'd be able to say, right? Like, everyone loves my jobs? Oh, right. But truly, a quick focus group is what accelerates that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have you dope.
Hello.
Hi.
Also in the energy utility space. So whoever else was in there, like, let's hang out. How do you coach hiring managers who are just adamantly against putting salaries in job postings? Even the, like, yep, that's the question. How do you do it?
All right, so it depends on my relationship with them. If I have a friendly relationship in which I can tell the truth, I say, have you ever taken a job without knowing how much money you're gonna make? Is it not a deal breaker to you? Like, do you live some mystery fantasy life in which money doesn't matter? Because no.
Right.
The second thing I would, so okay, that's like my dream world. We have the best relationship. Guessing that's not the case with everybody. Option 2, number 1, you can provide the data. I just did an entire series on pay transparency, and that 50% stat is very real and replicated across many different studies. 50% more quality conversion, qualified candidates, not just volume. The second thing, do you need me to shut up?
No.
Okay. The second thing I would tell you is they also can look at like competitiveness. So so we did a test, and even when we were competing with other people who had the exact same job titles, if there was no salary on that exact same job title, we still got more qualified people on the range. If there was a higher salary on the other one, obviously we start to see changes, but ultimately it is not a deal breaker. Not knowing is the deal breaker.
Okay.
And there's, again, a ton of data about the metrics and volume and quality that comes if you just put the damn number on there.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, we have one virtual question over there, and then we'll continue. But let me just say this before you leave. At 1 o'clock, they're doing door prizes. So if you've not visited the vendors, 1 o'clock, they do the drawing. So the question?
What are thoughts about organizations requiring degrees from accredited colleges and universities?
There's no difference. Here's my deal. This is my rule. This is a 100% rule in my world. If you did not learn how to do the job at school, we should not require school to do the job. So, my accountant, my lawyer, my doctor, my nurse, please have a degree. Please. I'm on board. Let's do it. I am not saying no degrees absolute. I'm saying no degrees when they do not make you better at the job. And that includes your VP of HR who has 15 years of practical experience and no one will hire her because she doesn't have a degree from the 80s. Okay? We need to focus on, can you do the job? What do you have to know to do the job? It doesn't matter if it's an accredited degree or not. The degree isn't the problem. Did you learn how to do your job at school? Is that the only place where you could learn how to do this and get the licenses that you need in order to be effective? That's the only time in which degrees matter.
Hi, my name's Amy, and I work for a aerospace and defense company. We do government contract as well as commercial. I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
The first one, I just want to clarify. So you said earlier that I primarily hire engineers and IT. So, and you can imagine software engineer, it's just so generic. And when I go in to post on LinkedIn or Indeed, it gives you suggested job title. Are you saying that I should or should not use that or come up with something that's more specific? Because some of the technology, like hardware engineer, level 4, we know what that means, but externally nobody knows. And then we have circuit, FPGA, and and it gets very complicated. But we're finding every John and Mary that has hardware engineer, so they're not a fit. So, but my manager is saying that no, you have to be consistent on the job title because you don't want to mislead people. So, are you saying that I can still embellish or make it more marketing friendly to attract the top talent in the advertising piece, the job posting, but then when we send the job description to the candidate, then I can put the internal job title, or can I mix both?
Do not post those internal job titles, especially if they have more letters than someone with like a very long last name. right?
Okay.
Like, do not post those. And I would tell that manager explicitly, if no one finds it, it doesn't matter what we call it.
Well, she
right?
said that you can use the popular job title.
Perfect.
But in the job content, you have to put that in there. So now we got 2 job title going on
No.
the one posting.
No, one job title all the way through.
Okay.
And you're really using it as an option to build trust between you and the candidate. When you send them information and say, we're interested in you, I'm going to provide you this information, I want to explain it to you.
Okay.
If you have questions, let's talk. I would use the marketing title because the second you start to switch things up, it's going to feel like spam. It's in fact something that I coach people on as spam, and that is increasing tremendously. The stat I saw, probably a little wonky, but there's some truth in it, was like 1 in 3 are spam right now.
Okay.
Okay? So I would be very explicit and just apply that process we talked about earlier.
Okay, so legally, I'm not going to run into any problems if I have a marketing piece that has a different job title and with everything else, but then I will give them the job description with the internal.
If you're worried about legal, they got to sign that job description.
Okay.
That would be my advice. And keep a copy of both, and they need to be interlinked in some way in your ATS.
Okay. And then my second question is, we do classify projects.
Yep.
So I actually have to hire U.S. citizen only. How do I, because right now I'm asking, are you authorized? Well, the answer is yes.
I love
Do
that.
you need H-1B visa employer sponsorship? The answer should be no. They say no. But then I'm getting everybody else who has a green card or who has something else, J1, and I can't consider them.
Yep.
So how do I, can I put U.S. citizen and explain why due to government contract requirements?
You have been trained beautifully in this hour.
Sorry.
What you just heard was, I can just tell the truth. I'm giving you permission. Just tell the truth.
Okay.
If you don't like something, if you feel like something is discriminatory, or you're getting way too many people who have this thing that I can't take, just be explicit. At this time, we are not accepting this because we do not have the budget for sponsorship. We are not open to this. This is a classified project. Whatever it is, just tell the truth.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
I work for a large public university, and our TA team is only a couple of years old now, so sort of a new thing here. And we have a little bit of dysfunction. I want to see what advice you would have. So the hiring manager intake meeting actually happens with our comp and class team.
I've heard this one.
Job gets built, and then they're like, hey, I need some help recruiting for this job. TA team comes in ready to save the day. And then we have another intake where we find out that we actually don't need these minimum qualifications. Like, we could walk this back some to increase our candidate pool. How would you attack that? Because then we have to go back to our comp and class team and beg for why we think these qualifications should be downgraded.
So you have 2 options. Option 1 is train everybody so that the comp and class team can create something better in the first place. Option 2 is to switch places. Tell them we want to be strategic consultants. And I think this is that move from order taker to consultant, right? Because right now you're very much an order taker. Like,
Yes,
you are literally bringing out the tray. Yeah. You're not even like taking the order.
We're like, please.
So I know, right? Please take the French fries. So going back, I think you need to be at the top. And I would probably have that meeting together.
Yeah.
So all 3 of you sit in that conversation. We do the job description and the job posting live. We're creating content as a group and get everything approved while you're there and then start the process. So I think you have options, but no matter what, I think you need to be at the front instead of the back.
Yeah, I think so too, and I'm going to quote you on that.
Please. Happy to put that on tape.
Thank you so much for all this information. My name is Karina. I'm from a small critical access hospital.
Okay.
And one of the things that we're looking into right now is education and degrees. So we have nurses and doctors that, we need these requirements, but then we also have a lot of other positions where it's maybe preferred or degrees. So there's a huge conversation right now with requirements on degrees and compensation and recruiting these people. So you mentioned that college is a privilege, not a right. And you said if we were curious, we could hear a little bit more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So when I say that, what I mean is that if we are very lucky if we get the chance to go to college and to make the choice to dedicate ourselves for 4 years to learning the majority of our time in that traditional setting as opposed to surviving. Only 20% of this country goes to college. I don't know where we got this idea that it was for everyone or that it was accessible to everyone, because it's not. Long-term debt is inaccessible. Our time, when you have to take care of babies, when you are a baby, you can't figure out how to balance your time. And if you do, you are remarkable. But all you get is the same little stamp that everybody else gets. And in rural America, those numbers decline even more. And if you have great people that really want to help, and they have the qualifications to do the job legally, at the hospital is like, right? The hospital is one of my big exceptions, and we've done a lot of work with a lot of hospital networks because everyone is struggling to get talent. And it's not about lowering the bar. It's being honest about what's required for the work. And fundamentally, I believe that we should not just benefit the privileged, the people who have always had access, the people who have had all these little perks all of their life. Exactly. Because the reality is a lot of people, and you're going to get a challenge, 100%, because it is very, very hard, and this is not my language, this is language from Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is an incredible writer, and I think one of the remarkable people of our time. He said that people with great power, it will take generations for them to shine a light and realize that every system was built for them to succeed. Every single one, up to and including college. They'll never see that, and so it's not your responsibility to make everyone see that, but I do think it is a great logical case to look someone dead in the eye and say, what does someone who went to school know how to do that someone who didn't go to school doesn't know how to do? Contrast. The mic that turned off, guys. They're just slowly unplugging me, get out of here.
All right.
I love this topic.